How's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And today I have two gentlemen joining me to talk about their current project. Cullen Bunn making his third. This is the third time you've been here, man. That's cool.
I think so. I keep forgetting. That's why I keep coming back, I guess.
Keep forgetting. You're like, oh man, that guy again.
Yeah.
Dang it. And today we're being joined by Heath Amodio. Is that how you would pronounce it? Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
nailed it.
With some original art behind him, and then we can figure out what's behind Cullen here. A couple of guesses back there, but yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you to Jordan for helping put this together. It's always a pleasure to get to talk to creators and talk about their upcoming projects. So I've talked to Cullen a lot, so I know a lot about his background and where he comes from. What about you, Heath? What is it that you do, and how were you inspired to do it?
I was in retail for 30 plus years of my life. I did everything from cleaning toilets to running stores. So, I got to see the lowest of the low as far as humanity goes. Since then, I've been working with Cullen as far as like creating comics and producing, television projects. We have a bunch of stuff coming up that we're really excited about, but it's mostly been a dream of being a published author, obviously, for quite a while, and Cullen helped that come true over the last 5 years or so.
How did you guys meet? How did this come about?
So just real quick, he's selling himself short.
You guys always do. Okay. Yeah. So why don't you? Maybe I should ask Cullen to tell me about you, and I should ask you to tell me about Cullen. That's how I should do it.
He was working in retail, but we have a company together called Hustle and Heart. Okay. And Hustle, that's Heath's superpower. He has more hustle than any other human being I've ever met. So that I just want to preface how we actually started working together by saying that. I mean, you're going to see Heath's superpower in action right now as he describes this.
Okay.
I'll cold call or cold email anybody. It really doesn't bother me who you are, what your name is, how big people think you are. I don't shy away from it. And Cullen was one of my favorite writers, and I really wanted to work with him. And so I reached out. I mean, I'm one of those people that look at comic book creators as kind of like the rock stars, right? So. When you start meeting these people, and some of them live up to expectations, some don't. That's very few and far between, which is nice in the comic book industry. But I pitched an idea to Cullen about, a possible production company that would allow creators to have more involvement in the adaptation of their work and trying to maintain the original vision when you go television or film or whatnot. Because especially in 2018, there were horror stories all over, left and right, of people getting their stuff optioned and then never hearing about it again. Things getting tied up in legal works and stuff like that. So, we started bringing in IP that we liked, and I was the backroom manager of Barnes & Noble at the time. And we managed to sell 2 shows right out of the gate our first year. And one was one that Cullen and I created that we sold to CW, and then we sold another one the 3rd year. But it's always been the game plan to create in whatever medium that takes, right? Whether it be prose or comics, whatever. And as a lifelong fan of comics, I definitely wanted to work in this medium, most especially. And, Cullen, like I said, helped that come to fruition.
So you just reached out, you're like, I don't care if that's Cullen Bunn.
Yeah, no,
I'm gonna reach out.
I gotta be low. I gotta be low on that totem pole, right? I mean,
he didn't say he reached out to 10 creators and you were the last one on the list. He said,
well, he says comic book creators are like rock stars to him, and I'm like, man, that's a poor excuse for a rock star. As soon as comic book creators really start thinking of themselves as rock stars, they need a reality check real quick. So,
but we know that they're out there because we've met comic book creators that.
Man, I wish I was a rock star. That'd be awesome. I'm more like the groupie who every time I go to a convention, I feel like a groupie lugging equipment onto the venue because I'm hauling boxes to a table. So
I think you Brody. You don't want to be.
I have to ask. Okay, as somebody, when was that email sent out, Heath?
Probably late 2017. We launched
2017. Cullen Bunn had been out there for a while. He had some stuff published, right?
yeah.
But so you took a
I was already on my decline. I was already on my way out.
I responded. He had free.
But you replied back. You were like, you saw the pitch and you were like, okay.
All it said was, I want to talk to you about an idea. That's all it was.
That's all it takes.
Company. It's not all it takes, because usually if someone, I get emails all the time. People say, "Hey, I've got an idea. I'd love to share with you about doing a comic together." And I can't read those for legal reasons. I can't read someone else's comic book pitch.
Okay.
But Heath specifically didn't say, I'm not pitching a comic. I'm pitching an idea for a company and a new approach to doing business. And there was just something about the email. I decided, you know what? I'll at least hear what he has to say. And I just, I think we clicked on the very first phone call. And the thing with Heath is he's a big idea guy. And that's what I like. He's got a lot of ideas, not talking about ideas for like stories, but just ideas of how to do things and business approaches and doing things differently. And I could sense that hustle right away. And I feel like for me, I want to surround myself with people who have that hustle, who have that drive, who are always trying to make something happen. And that's definitely Heath. Maybe too much sometimes for my taste. Sometimes I'm like, oh, slow down. Let's take a step back. But he's definitely got that hustle.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Like it's pure luck and probably just not being a dick, right? Because at least initially, like that grows over time. The more you get to know me. But like I reached out to people on any platform. Twitter, I've made some great friends, like Emmanuel Shrieky, who played Lana Lang in Superman and Lois. I reached out to her on Twitter while she was blowing up on Entourage. And I was like, hey, I got a script I think you'd like. And she DM'd me. I was like, send it. You know what I mean? And that's just right. So, and then I was in the back room Barnes & Noble. I came up with this idea for the Brooklyn Bridge. And I was like, who's one of my favorite showrunners at the time? I love Dexter. So I was like, I reached out to James Manos's rep while I'm sorting books on the carts. And I'm like, hey, man, I got this project about the Brooklyn Bridge. I really love to work with James on it. An hour later, I get an email from that agent that he wants me to hop on a call with James that like within 15 minutes. So I'm in the parking lot of Barnes & Noble on the call with him. And the next thing I know, he's like, I want to do this. Can we do this? And this isn't none of this is normal. And I'm well aware of that. And I don't know why people respond. You know what I mean?
Maybe that's your mutant ability. You have the power to know when to catch someone on a good day. Because I mean, honestly, that's sometimes what it is, right? Like sometimes it's like, Cullen could have had a bad day, and he'd have been like, "Man, I'm deleting all emails. I don't want to talk to nobody."
That's not an uncommon occurrence. So, I mean.
But he listened and he picked your. So that is really cool that you were able to reach out to people, and not only did they read your email, but they replied back. And these aren't people. I assume most of these people are busy too, right? Like reading an email and then getting back to you and then getting on a call with you. Whatever you pitched was that good that it got somebody's attention.
I mean, after a while, you start to get a name throughout the industries that when someone reaches out to you, it's worth taking their call, right? So, that's why we have projects with Katie Sackhoff and, Kristen Kruk from Smallville and Bobby Moynihan from Saturday Night Live. And we've worked with Method Man in the past. Like, it's bringing quality to the table, whether it be stories that Cullen can obviously provide or, some kind of idea that I come up with. These people are all excited to get involved. And, Katie, especially her and her husband, Robin, they've been amazing. It looks like we're going to have like 3 or 4 different projects with them. And it's just, great conversations, and they're really cool people, and they're everything you want them to be. And, and they all obviously admire Cullen. Every last one of them is a fan of his.
Who can blame them?
Maybe I should stop blowing his head up.
That man's name fills up half of Barnes and Noble. Dude, 2 years, or maybe it was in 2020, when I first interviewed Cullen, I was like, I read a lot. Like, that's what I'm known for on my channel. Or at least I think that's what I'm known for. But Cullen, I think, writes twice as much as I read. And I don't know how he does that. I don't think he sleeps.
No one does.
I got one speed. That's all I'll ever have to. Once I stop, that means I'm in the ground somewhere. So.
Dude, there's like a new book by you, and every time I make a upcoming like collected editions, I'm like, oh, Cullen Bunn. It's got a new book. Cullen Bunn. Wow.
Yeah.
You're a machine, dude.
Dude, he'll tell me, hey, I might need a few afternoons that I can't answer calls or emails because I've got 9 scripts due by Friday. And you're like, that's
it's never that. It's never 9. It's a couple, maybe. Come on.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So you guys reached out. You guys have been working together since 2017 then.
Yeah.
So this new project that you guys are working on, Copycat, tell me about that. How did that come about?
Well, Cullen and I have kind of pivoted from what we were doing at the beginning. I came up with an idea where we go to people that we really want to work with and we admire. And, so I had been binging this producer, Todd Gardner's podcast on producing films, and he's done some hits. He's done Tag. He's done Sorcerer's Apprentice. He's done the new Mortal Kombat. The guy was the president of Sony and Disney at different times, right? So he's someone that I definitely wanted to work with and looked up to. And I reached out to him, same as I always do, and I said, hey, Todd, do you have something that you'd like to do in the comic book space? Because Cullen and I would love to work with you. And he had a one sheet that he sent me. And then as soon as I read through it, I was like, this could definitely work, because you never know what you're going to get from people that don't work in this medium, right? It could be something that just works.
Yeah.
So I brought it to Cullen, I gave him a call, and we just started instantly talking about ideas. And then it was some back and forth with Todd, making sure it fit the vision that he was looking for. And, we were off and running once he greenlit everything.
And so this is something that has both of you involved. And tell me a little bit about the story. What's the pitch?
You want me to do it, Cullen?
Yeah, you do it, Heath. You're better at this one than me.
Well, Todd's idea was that he wanted a regular human that could basically take someone's pain or determine what someone's pain or illness or ailment was, injury, and determine what that is by a simple touch. But in return, that person would take on that illness or that pain and have to deal with that agony. So it kind of like, is it worthwhile to do this? So it's an ER nurse, right? And she can diagnose patients by touching them, but obviously it comes at a cost, because she's going to freak out everybody else around her and possibly risk losing her job. And then is it worth doing that, right? Who are you helping more if you're not actually a nurse anymore? But she's on her way, after being basically told to go home because she freaks the doctors out. She's walking through the streets of New York City, and this woman, badly bruised and beaten, comes falling out of this building, out of the front door of a building and into her arms, and basically dies in her arms. And what it is this woman has the ability, she has like a superpower that she's an amazing fighter, and she's got some extra strength, and unconsciously or whatever, our lead takes that power as the woman dies. And now she's kind of a loose end to this murder, and she's being hunted by people with powers and trying to solve this mystery of who killed this woman, just so she can get back to her own normal life as an ER. And we wanted to make it sure it was grounded. That was very important to Todd. It's not an MCU superhero movie like that. It's much more grounded action, like a John Wick or an Atomic Blonde. She just happens to have powers, but that's not what the focus of the story is, because it's always used for defense. She's never initiating the conflict. It's to protect herself and those around her. So really grounded action with a good mystery at its core is what was most important to Todd, and I think we pulled it off really well.
So okay, so both of you are writing this, and how does that happen? Because I'm always curious how co-writers work together, right? Like you call each other, like, "Hey, Cullen, I finished page 1 through 5. You do 6 through 10," or you work together on the same script, or is one of you the plot, the other one is the voices of the characters, and then of course is there dispute over how something should play out? Because I love that conflict is always good.
So I've co-written a lot of books in my time, and it's I've done it many different ways. The way Heath and I did this is the way I think co-writing works, and definitely the only way it works for me well. So what we do is we talk about, so we've already talked about the series, but we talk about what's going to happen in every issue that we're going to write. So this was, or every chunk of pages or whatever it is. We talk about what's going to happen. And then I'm a big outline guy. I think comics need to be outlined in a very detailed way. So then we outline what's going to happen page by page, what scene, what's on this page, this page, this page. And then Heath and I go through that outline and we say, okay, I like this scene. I'd like to write this scene. Or he says, hey, I think I could do a great job with this scene, or whatever it is. And we just kind of we kind of parse those out. We write our individual scenes, we put them back into one document together, and then we do a pass through that document to make it look like it was written that way one time. There were no, to smooth out the transitions and things like that. So we divide it up and we write those pages, as they come. And sometimes, depending on the book, like we did a book called The Heathens together. And that book, it was pretty evenly every issue. I was like, oh no, you're right. I'm writing 11 pages. He's writing 11 pages. With this one, it was maybe in the sections, Heath was probably doing more of the pages, or I was doing fewer pages, but we always try to balance it out in the end. Okay.
And you guys are working together with, is it Elmer, the artist?
Yeah, he prefers Ev. Ev.
Oh, Ev. Okay, cool. And this is now, I put the link in the description of the video, and I'm actually going to put the link right now on the chat for people that are wondering what book we're currently talking about. It's available through Zoop, where you can pre-order it, and there's 18 days left. Now, there's different versions, right? Like you have the digital version, you have the digital deluxe version, you have the physical trade paperbacks, the signed trade paperbacks, the digital deluxe, and a commission too. And some of these have been claimed. I want to make sure that. Oh, there's original art pieces here, including one of Taskmaster.
There are a lot of options that for every budget and every inclination on this project.
The artist that did that Taskmaster, that's one of my own commissions that I sent out for. He's not in the industry, which is mind blowing. Just you can look at that piece and tell that he's definitely got talent. So I can say that all of his commissions are always amazing. He always knocks them out of the park. I've gotten like 2 or 3 from him at this point. And his prices are unbelievable given the quality of the art that you get back.
Yeah, man, that's a beautiful piece. And Eder Messias piece is beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
That's a beautiful piece. So I have to ask the question because I'm always curious when creators decide to go that route. Why the crowdsource route? Like maybe give a little behind the scenes of that. Why go that route and not just come out and publish it through Diamond or the book market?
Well, this book was actually with a publisher for a while.
Okay.
And then as things happen, look, comics can be behind the scenes. Comics can be very volatile and things change on a dime. And sometimes it's shocking to me that any comic ever gets published. So things changed. the comic wasn't going to be published, and the publisher was cool enough to say they weren't going to fight us on the rights. So they just said, here you go. It's, you don't have to worry about the publishing rights and everything. Mm-hmm. And we had been talking to Jordan at Zoop. I've been talking to him quite a bit. I've done several crowdfunding projects. I've been talking to Jordan at Zoop for a while about doing something together. What could we do together? And it just seemed like a good time to try it. The interesting thing about these crowdfunding books or the thing that I like about them. So I could take Copycat to a publisher. We could easily get another publisher to pick it up, and it's going to go on their schedule for 2026 or 2027.
Okay.
I mean, it's just the slates are very full right now for publishing. It's there's a long wait. But with crowdfunding, we're ready to go. The book's done. So we're ready to get it out there. So the crowdfunding, we're able to announce the book, showcase some of the art, get people excited about it, and they get a copy. And then maybe down the line, maybe we'll take it to a publisher and have a publisher put it out. But we just wanted to see about getting it out. I've said many times in other places, I don't think publishers can keep up with me anymore. And
I don't think so either, man.
I'm not gonna, that's nothing against the publishers. They have a slate they have to maintain, and they know what they need to do for their publishing schedule. And I'm still going to work with many publishers, but they can't keep up with me for everything. So some of these special projects, why not crowdfund them? Why not take them out and take them out there, get them out for people to read them. I back a lot of crowdfunding projects. I like the feeling of actually contributing, not just buying. I'm not just buying a book. I'm helping that book get made. I mean, that book gets made because I helped fund it, or that project, whatever. I back a lot of nonsense at this point. So it's not just books. I'm everything from, it started with comics, and then it was board games, then it was backpacks and shoes and lamps and everything else.
I'm going to stop you right there, Cullen. Because I know you ain't got no damn time to be playing no board games when you're always writing.
That's true. But if you were to walk right out this room here and look in this closet, it's full of board games. Most of them never unwrapped, stacked to the ceiling.
Sounds like my video game pile of shame.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm delusional about playing video games. I know what I am, but I love buying them.
Last time I was out in Missouri visiting, we played the John Carpenter game, and that was a lot of
yeah, my brothers played that with me. Yeah, that is a cool game.
Cullen is very good at that game.
I like being devious. I can't help it.
Okay, so that's why you guys decided to go, because this book is ready to go. There is a section where retailers can also purchase this book, in case people are wondering. So people are asking, is there going to be a deluxe hardcover version of this, or is it just trade paperback?
I mean, I would love to do a deluxe hardcover at some point. I think there's a really unique aspect to this campaign where we're putting it out there to fans that if they want to have a story written featuring themselves in this universe, we're happy to do that. And then you can even get a commission done by one of the artists that features your character, right? Obviously like a likeness, but it would be cool if we could get some of those ordered to feature those in a deluxe hardcover where these people are seeing their stories involved. They'd be prose stories, to be clear, but they do take place in this universe. It does give you a superpower and all of that stuff. And then you get to see yourself on a commission from one of these amazing artists, like, Adair, like you had said. I just thought as a comic book fan myself, that would be pretty cool. So as a hardcover version, that would be dope if we could do that for sure.
But that's a question too. Like, as a creator, what do you all like? Do you all like trade paperbacks with your names on them, or do you guys like big books like that has your names on them? I'm always curious because I know I've had certain creators on the channel that do not like oversized formats, including one of my favorite artists of all time, and it breaks my heart every time. And he's like, I'm not doing it. I'm standard size is what I go. So I'm curious, what do you all think?
I kind of like it all. I really do. I mean, the first trade paperback of my work that came out was for The Damned. and we lobbied the publisher. The comic was, traditional comic size, but we lobbied the publisher to put it out as a almost a manga size edition of the first.
A digest size book?
Yeah, so it was more digest size.
Okay.
So now it's been reprinted since then in traditional, trade paperback size and things like that. But I like that. I like oversized books. I like giant hardcovers. I mean, for reading purposes, a trade paperback's just about if I'm just wanting to read it, I like a trade paperback. It's easy to transport, easy to read, easy to throw to the side when I'm done with it. Throw across the room in rage when something happens that I don't like. So I like trades for reading purposes, but I like all formats of these books. I want them out. I want my books to be in every format.
Okay, so I am the same way. If I could mess with my camera and it wouldn't shut down, I would show you that I have all different sizes and stuff, because some things are only collected in trade, but there are a certain group of people that watch my channel that only like oversized hardcovers. What about you, Heath? What do you like?
I mean, I loved seeing the stuff that we've done so far come out as single issues, obviously, because that was always the dream, right? Wasn't really much of the trade aspect of things. It was really the single issues, and then you're just collecting those. Now as a collector, I do prefer the hardcovers. They're more convenient because you get so much story in one. But I mean, let's be honest, it's probably the aesthetic more than anything, how they look on the shelf when you get the full run going. You have all the single issues anyway, right? And you really don't want to keep messing with those because we're all freaks about keeping our comics in good condition. That's why words sell so much as they do. But I do prefer to have a collection of the hardcovers, unless they end up like Harrow County, where it's $600 for one version because you can only find them on Amazon.
Dude, every time I have Cullen on the show, people ask Omar, ask him when the reprint's coming, and I was like, he don't know.
What I would suggest, I have a solution to this problem. Okay. Everyone buy every version of every book that I put out, because some of them will go out of print and they'll be worth a lot of money, and just do that. Look, I'm the same way with those Buffy the Vampire Slayer hardcovers. I don't know why I didn't buy them when they came out. I kept saying to myself, "Oh, I can get them later on."
Oh yeah,
and now some of those are thousands of dollars to get, and there's no intent as far as I can see of reprinting those, and it's terribly, terribly frustrating for me.
I have contacts at Dark Horse that I've been asking for the last 3 years, and we want to focus on the trade paperbacks right now. We want to focus on the omnibus editions, which their omnibus editions in Dark Horse are the softcover omnibus editions, and I keep pushing like yes, but I think like there's so many new people to the hobby that would love to have the books that are out of print, and I don't know, without getting on their nerves, how much I can actually push that, right? Like even Cullen, like I can start an email chain between me, Dark Horse, and Cullen, and I don't know how well that would do, because I think as publishers, you all know what happens. And this is really cool because you have the control over that, right? Like, hey, we're gonna put out these.
I've had those conversations. Believe me, there's a lot of books that go out of print, and I just don't understand why. I mean, look, it's people above my pay grade make those decisions. I mean, I love to tell people, yes, those Harrow counties will come back into print in hardcover, but I just don't know. I mean, I know we're doing new editions of the series and stuff, but I have the conversations on the hardcovers have not happened, unfortunately.
And the new one just came out, the Tales from Harrow County.
And that hardcover just came out. Yeah.
When they usually do that, like that would be a good time to reprint the older ones because it's the format. It's in library edition. Yeah. So what I'm trying to get at both of you is like, let's get a deluxe edition of this Copycat book.
Now, Heath, make it happen.
I'm taking my shot just like Heath did in 2017 with Cullen.
Believe me, I would love to do that for everything we do. Like, I would absolutely love that for Heathens, especially. I love that series. This is in our control, and we wanted to see. This is our first time on Zoop. We wanted to see how that works out. campaign runs, right? And then you can always turn around and do something specific for a deluxe hardcover. Like we do want to do something for Cullen's Nightwalkers, which we control also. And the first volume is done and hasn't been released as a trade yet. So we'd love to do something big for that would also maybe encompass a volume 2 being tied into it as well, with artist Joe Picardo attached. So we love that series. We have plans for that also. Like I said, if hardcover on everything, absolutely, right? It's like what makes the most sense, and offering it right out of the gate. We weren't 100% sure if that made feasible sense, right? Because if you're only getting 2 people sponsoring that, the cost of doing a hardcover is not cheap, right? So,
but in crowdsource, doesn't that also give you the ability to see how much interest there is in a certain type of format? Like if you gave, and I'm sorry, I know I have never published a book, so I don't know how it works, right? But I just, from what I've seen in crowdsource funding, that's kind of like testing the waters. Okay, there's this many people that are interested in buying a deluxe edition of the same book, and then there's this many people that are buying the trade paperback, the cheaper version, and then of course there's also digital, right?
Yeah, there's a ton of flexibility in crowdsourcing. The difficulty is, if Heath and I put right now deluxe hardcover edition of Copycat on there, and only two people supported that project, we have to print hardcovers to fulfill that for them. So it's not like we can cancel their order. I wouldn't feel comfortable canceling their order. So we'd have to set we wanted to keep we wanted to keep the funding goal kind of lean and mean. So we wanted to keep it so that we knew we could do this. We knew we could fund it. We knew we could get it out there to everybody that supported it. And we could print enough that we can get them out to, through other venues if we need to. But we have to be careful. And that's the thing, people who get into crowdfunding, I think they get super excited about, I'm going to offer all these different, options. And you have to be a little careful. One, you have to be ready if you're super successful, you have to be able to fulfill it. And two, if you sell one copy of that, of the Buns of Steel edition that I see people mentioning over here in the comments, if I sell one copy of that, that's going to cost me $1,000 to print. So, and if I've sold it for $40, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah.
Well, you could set a minimum, right? Like, I've seen Kickstarters and Indiegogos that are like, okay, minimum of like 100 copies.
Yeah,
100
maybe.
copies
And
I'm not telling you guys how to run your business. You guys obviously know a lot more than I do.
It's still, even though crowdfunding's been been a thing for a while, it's still sort of the Wild West. It's still learn as you go a little bit.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to kind of give my 2 cents on that, and also get your perspective too, because it's so much easier said than done from being a collector, right? So many times we look at things being announced, and people, even myself, I'm like, oh, this should have been an omnibus instead of this trade paperback. It happens. I do it a lot, and I see a lot of my viewers. And then I have viewers that don't. I'm serious. They do not get anything that's in trade paperback or digital. So it's like hardcover or go home for them.
I think for collection, you need to, for collecting purposes, I think you kind of need to know what you're after, what your goals are, what you want to collect. Otherwise, your collection looks like mine, which is just this weird mishmash of everything, and it has no theme. It has no cohesiveness. Like, I look at those shelves behind you, for instance. Those are gorgeous shelves, and they're cohesive, and you can see what they are, and I know what that collection's all about. Well, it's a focused, organized collection. I don't hold it against people from saying, hey, I only buy hardcovers.
And I get it. Like that Birthright series from Image, I love that series, right?
My man, see, Heath knows what's up. I said the same thing.
They've only done one hardcover that I know of, and it's like
standard
size as a trade paperback, and you're like, what is this? This is clearly just a money grab. You want to overcharge for the first volume of a trade paperback, right? So, and that's another thing that we want to kind of avoid, because the story's around 70 something pages. With backstory and everything else, we don't want to sit there and overcharge for a hardcover on something that is clearly like a trade paperback size, right? Like if we do a deluxe, we're going to want a bunch of extra stuff in there and make it worthwhile, because that's the entire point of getting a deluxe hardcover is, added bonus features and added story and stuff like that. So there is a stretch goal where if this were to get to it, we would add more story to Copycat. And if you're adding more chapters, more volumes, then it makes sense to go hardcover, right? As a collector, I would feel kind of cheated if I get, if I go pay $50 for a hardcover and I'm getting a 70-something page story, right? It's going to be 100-something pages with the trade and everything extra that we're including. But that's the other thing that you got to keep in mind. You got to keep the collectors in mind. So, we wouldn't want to shortchange anybody either.
Yeah, and when you and Cullen were pointing out those things in the back, I mean, this is Marvel and DC we're talking about here, right? It's a lot different than you all, going with Dark Horse and Image. I mean, that's also a different beast, right? Like getting those publishers to publish your books in a hardcover format. It's not as easy. So whenever I ask these questions, it's mainly for my viewers to kind of understand a little behind the scenes as to why decisions were made. And
Sure.
And they're not like, oh, it would have been so much easier to make this into a hardcover or a deluxe hardcover. Because we've actually seen companies that have done that in the past, like Boom just recently with the release of Irredeemable, like the trilogy. They did not want to make it into a deluxe edition. They were like, no, it would be too costly to make it into a deluxe edition. We're going to stick with standard size trade paperback or hardcovers. And that was through their crowdsources.
Right.
I think they went, it was a Kickstarter.
It was Kickstarter. Yeah.
So this is going on for 18 more days. What's next on the books for you guys? What are you guys working on next? Cullen's working on just about everything, I'm assuming. He's got 18 books he's writing as soon as we're done with this interview.
Well, look, I'm doing, I'm continuing to work on, I'm looking over at my board. I got a lot of books coming out. We, there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been announced yet that I'm working on. I'm working on a lot.
Give us a hint, Cullen. What do you got? What are you working on? Is it something scary?
The stuff that's announced, I can tell you, I've got a book announced called Monsters Are My Business. That's starting, first issue comes out in March, I believe. That's coming out from Dark Horse. And it's sort of an action comedy, horror comic. It's got a koala with a chainsaw. If you like koalas with chainsaws, you're going to love this book. He's going to be everybody's new favorite koala bear. So I've got Monsters Are My Business coming out from Dark Horse starting in March. I've got the new Godzilla versus the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is starting up in I think March or April. The first issue comes out. And that book, it's a sequel to I did Mighty Morphin Power Rangers versus Godzilla a year or two ago. Mm-hmm. And this one is even more insane, more bonkers. You will not believe what I get away with in this book. So if you like Godzilla, if you like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, if you're just kind of curious at how far a writer can go with two licensed properties, this is the book for you. And then I've got Beyond Mortal. I had Todd Garner on the brain. Beyond Mortal comes out from Dark Horse in trade paperback mid-year, and Beyond Mortal is a big book for me. Yeah. It's a superhero book, but it's a horror book as well. I've described it other places as the Justice League versus the Cthulhu mythos. It is, but I am with this trade paperback. I am introducing a new superhero universe. It's my superhero universe. It's very horror centric. And there's already a couple of spin-off series that are in the works that'll be coming out. So I'm introducing a whole new shared universe that is all me, through the Beyond Mortal. The first book is Beyond Mortal trade paperback that comes out in, I think it's early July. The first trade comes out, and it's an OGN, so it'll come out as trade.
Okay,
and it's pretty big, right?
Oh yeah, it's a big story.
Who's publishing the Mighty Morphin and Godzilla book?
So that's through IDW and Boom. They're publishing it together.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's officially an IDW. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
They're both on the cover, so I don't know.
I think DC published and printed the Batman Ninja Turtles omnibus, but it's like co-published by IDW. Yeah, the whole licensing thing can be a little bit of a nightmare.
Yeah.
And then we also have Long Haul that comes out in February, March.
Okay.
From King John Carpenter's company with Sandy King. That's with both of us writing, like with Copycat, and it's about these two blue collar brothers that start chasing down and tracking down and brutally killing serial killers trying to find their missing sister. So, or at least what happened to her. So, and that blends like Steven Spielberg's Duel with Stephen King's Maximum Overdrive and the a lot of Punisher type aspect to it, but it's grounded, it's brutal. There's a copious amounts of blood and action and horror. So I was just told on a separate interview from a guy that had gotten an early copy that he was disgusted by the first several pages. So that means we nailed it and we're off to a good start. But that we're excited about that one. And then the projects that I mentioned with like Katie and Kristen and Bobby, those are 4 comics. They're not TV or film or anything. Like those are going to be comic book projects. So, we're really excited about those. Like Bobby, if you're familiar with him from Saturday Night Live, like he pitched his idea to Cullen and I, and he's like acting it out on the Zoom, and it was hilarious. It had us dying laughing. But it also has, horror aspects to it, which is really cool. So, we're excited about a lot of this stuff.
For sure.
So when working with other people that come from from Saturday Night Live, is it do you find it easier to work with them and kind of put their vision on paper?
Well, we don't have to write some of those. Like Bobby's
really?
And Kristen Kruk wants to write hers with her writing partner.
Okay.
And Colin would be writing the ones with Katie, husband. So that would be a collaboration, much like what we've done, and however that works out. Obviously she's very busy, so it's going to be catching her as often as we can to sit down and creatively have that conversation. But it's whatever works for these people and allows it to be an enjoyable experience, right? Because that's the only way we're going to continue to do that, and word of mouth spread to other people. And beyond this, like we also have a project with Scarlett Johansson's These Pictures through our other publishing endeavors. So we're working with some pretty cool, exciting people. And
in the end, though, I don't have time to work with people who are difficult to work with, or unpleasant. I have time for one unpleasant collaborator in my life, and I've done that with Heath. So I don't get.
So that slot's been filled. Okay.
So we are very careful we only want to work with people that are easy to work with, fun to work with. I don't want to work with jackasses, and I'm not going to. I don't have enough years on this earth to spend time working with jackasses anymore.
No, dude, that is a great way of looking at it, right? So somebody could be a great writer or throw you a great pitch, but if they are jackasses, then do you really want to?
No.
Yeah,
and that's yourself there.
Yeah,
right?
It's not, and it's just I don't have time to work with people who are difficult to work with. If I'm difficult to work with, I don't want people to work with me. I don't want anyone to waste time with me either. If I end up being a pain to work with, so it's all right.
Do it. So
well, there you go.
Cullen, are you going to be working with the big two anytime soon, or can you say?
I have I have like a 10-page story that I co-wrote with Mark Wade that is coming out in the World's Finest annual, I guess.
Okay.
But it may already be out for all. I don't think it is. I think it can't be out yet because the art just recently got finished. So that's coming out in the next month or two, I think. And then other than that, I don't have any other Big Two stuff on my calendar right now. And that's not saying there might not be.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't chase it. There was a time in my life where I'd, if projects started not, if the projects were drying up or there were slots on my calendar, I would immediately write to, all my editors at Marvel and DC and say, hey, I really want to, let's talk about some new project, but I'm not chasing that stuff anymore. I got plenty of stories to tell right now. I love the Marvel universe. I love the DC universe. There are a couple of characters in both those universes that I would fall all over myself to work on again, but I'm also not going to chase it.
I just want Marvel to publish the comic that they approved in 2014 for me that they were going to do.
What was that?
I got sour news for you, Jack.
In 2004, I was only like 24 at the time, so it was 20 years ago. But I wrote it was when Marvel was struggling, right? They had Epic Comics, they were still doing that, and they put it out there that they were taking open submissions, right? So 20,000 something people sent stuff in. I think Kevin Smith was another one who had, and it gotten one approved. But I wrote What If Uncle Ben Hadn't Died, and it was dark. Like, Aunt May dies, Uncle Ben gets his neck snapped by Kingpin. Like, I couldn't believe they were going to do it. But Marvel was a different beast back then, right? So, and you could still find these articles online. And then all of a sudden, Epic just wasn't part of their business anymore. So that went away.
You're talking about the Epic imprint that they brought back?
Yeah.
In the early, it would have been 2003, I think, when they were starting to take commissions. Or pitches, right? I just talked about that. One of my viewers was crazy and sent me 14 copies of Mark Millar's Trouble.
Was Trouble part of that? I didn't realize.
Trouble was their first.
Okay. Every time Heath tells me about that, we talk about it. I try to remember what books were part of that, because I was very familiar with the original Epic run. That was my Epic. But so now I get it. Now I know where it was. Now I know what was circling around. Trouble was part of that. Okay.
Trouble was the beginning and the end of the Epic. I think we had Crimson Dynamo that was published, because a buddy of mine and myself, we pitched something too, and we were very excited. We had our own team, and I remember how destroyed we were. They were like, yeah, we're not doing the Marvel Epic. That line has now been canceled, and I was devastated. And I always say not to be confused with the Marvel Epic lines where they're reprinting books.
Yeah. But this that's right. Yeah.
What were you saying about the editor, Heath?
The two editors that I was working with at the time were great. I mean, the notes made sense, and they clearly had a vision as far as what they wanted to do with that line, and they had big plans for it, and then it all just fell apart. And then they started having me submit for like Spider-Man and X-Men Unlimited, which, I obviously wanted to work with Marvel, but those were not fun stories because they could have no backstory and no story beyond the 11 pages. It was like 11 which you can do a lot with Spider-Man in that time frame, but a team trying to write a team in that space is a lot more difficult. At least it was for me at the time. But it was a cool experience, even though nothing really came out of it.
Well, you got to write things. You got some experience. You get to know editors that you may work with later on too. You never know, right? Where life takes you.
Exactly.
And
that all sounds like nonsense talk to me. I don't like any of what you just described. I don't like it.
Everything is an experience, right? And I've learned that I don't stalk my favorite writers enough, that I need to just start emailing them some more. And because if 1 out of every 10 that I write, hey, I got a story idea, gets back to me, Baby, we're in business.
And don't
That's all
send
I
story
need.
ideas. Don't do it. Most writers can't read those. We get in trouble.
You got to have a business plan ready.
Oh, that's what it is. A business plan. Okay.
Yeah.
I love, dude. That is some. I love that story. That's got to be one of my favorite stories I've heard doing interviews. Just you. That's a cold email, man. Just send out to Cullen, and he replied back. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that this has been working for you.
4 or 5 years later, we're hanging out at a bar called Haunted House in Cleveland, and that was, having a great night. And it never would.
That. I forgot. I was too drunk to remember who was there with me.
That bar. Well, you're drinking out of a fishbowl, so I'm not surprised.
Oh man, that sounds fun. Okay. Well, I am very excited for this book. It's already, you guys have it already made. It just needs to be printed. When can people, maybe Heath knows a little more about this. When can people expect the book once it's funded? Like, how long will the process be before getting it into their hands?
Zoop listed it as the summer.
Okay.
I can't taking that long. It may take a little longer if we do get some people that want, custom short stories for themselves and commissions and stuff like that. Like, that may extend it a little bit, but I can't imagine it taking that long.
Got you. Okay. You're getting some praise in the chat, Cullen, but people...
Thank you, Krypton Ken.
Do you still hate Aquaman?
I don't listen. Now listen. I don't hate Aquaman. I just hated writing Aquaman. And I would, honestly, I would love to get a chance to write Aquaman again. I think I would like to get another crack at Aquaman. And somewhere out there, it's like there's a terrible disturbance in the force. Thousands of Aquaman fans just felt a terrible shudder, Pat. They're like, oh, something terrible happened. And they were thinking of me writing Aquaman again. But I think I could do it and do it right. That's what I say. Cullen Bunn stamp of approval. I could do that Aquaman right.
You hate it just because you had to learn how to translate from fish.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah,
you just give yourself a stamp of approval. Is that how it works?
Yes. You know what?
That's really interesting. I almost let that fly, but I had
nobody gonna love me the way I love me. Okay. So I'm banking on me.
Awesome. I didn't even know about this. Is this real? There was a 6-gun TV pilot in 2013?
There was. So way back in 2012, 2013, we did a pilot for NBC, starring, among other people, Pedro Pascal was in it, and Mikkel Huisman. It had a pretty cool cast. Yeah, so they shot one pilot. Ended up it was too expensive for NBC, and I think that it just didn't go anywhere.
Okay.
Except we are.
The only reason it was expensive is because they were going right after Metallica songs, right from the very beginning of the show.
It did have it had an interesting soundtrack. But yeah, so and I saw in the question, it sounds like they know that we're doing it again. Selwyn Hines is right now writing or has written the script to the new series. Has gone through a couple of drafts, and we'll see. I can tell you that I think Selwyn. I think if you like that one that came out, Selwyn's script is so good. It's such an amazing script. I'm really hopeful about it. So I won't tell you where you can find that pilot. You can find it right now until we can figure out how to change that.
The old one. The original.
Yeah. People keep praising your Magneto. I remember when I had you on the first time, we were talking about a Buncanny X-Men omnibus, hopefully one day, and a Magneto omnibus to go along with that.
Yeah, that Magneto series. Look, I'm not. I know I seem full of myself when I'm giving myself stamps of approval, but I'm not so full of myself that I think everything I've written is gold. But that Magneto series was pretty great. And it deserves the omnibus treatment. And frankly, I feel like they should just do the Magneto, because really Magneto, Uncanny X-Men, X-Men Blue were all part of the same series in a lot of ways. So they should do an omnibus for each of those, and then they should just hire me back to write what I wanted to write to begin with, because I ended X-Men Blue with a shot of Magneto with this Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and it was that was supposed to be the next series, was Magneto and the Brotherhood, and it was going to be that. But then, of course, everything went stupid. Not stupid for the creators. It just went stupid for me. I don't know. I haven't read X-Men since I stopped writing it, so I don't know if it's stupid or good. So
it's more often at the bar, right, Colin, that you're writing?
So somebody knows that I write at a coffee shop. I do. I write every Tuesday and Thursday morning. I work at the coffee shop. I do work at a bar quite frequently too, but every Tuesday and Thursday is the coffee shop.
Wow. How long are you there?
Just a couple hours.
Okay.
Yeah. I leave as soon as it starts getting a little bit crowded. I'm like, I gotta go. Gotta get out.
I wanted to ask Colin where the idea for Death of Venomverse came from.
So that was Marvel contacted me out of the blue and said, "Hey, it's the anniversary of Venom, and since you've written so much Venom, do you want to write this Death of the Venomverse series?" And it sounded like fun, but they had a plan for that. So they going into it, they knew they knew what they wanted. They wanted Carnage to be the villain. And then so they gave me sort of guidelines on that. We want Carnage to be the villain. And I said, well, here's what I would do with Carnage. What he should be doing, how 5 issues would wrap up or would run. But they knew where they wanted it to end too. They, at the beginning they said it's got to be Carnage, and at the end he has to be in this position. So I was kind of working between bookends. I knew where it needed to start, and I knew what Carnage needed to look like, for lack of a better term, where he needed to be at the very end. So I was working between the bookends of that.
So some of these ideas, sometimes the editors are like, "Hey, where you have the story, this is where the character should be, and where he should be at the end."
Well, yeah,
you have fun in the middle.
Yeah, that's kind of what that story. I don't love those. Aren't my favorite kinds of stories to work on, but it happens every now and again. That's where the book is. It was, everything else between. I was free to do what I wanted, but it seemed like there's something planned for Carnage after, there was something planned for Carnage after the end of that series. So they wanted that to be where it left off.
Okay. I love Basilisk, as do I. Any
Me
chance
too.
of a hardcover?
Maybe one day. I'd say never say never. I think all those Boom 12-issue series I did, I'd love to see as hardcover. So, Basilisk, Bone Parish, Ghost Lore that I'm doing right now. I would love to see, really nice hardcover editions. I'd want them to match. I want them to kind of look like they belong in a series, because I do kind of feel like those books take place. They don't take place in the same world or universe, but I kind of feel like they dance in the same arena.
Since we last talked, I've gotten a couple of your books. I get your books all the time. Big books though. The Dark Arc that came out, and then there was the second Dark Arc hardcover from Aftershock.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember it's been released in a few different hardcover variations. I'm not sure.
So there was the Cullen Bunn, which is a really cool one, like the horror collection.
It was All My Little Demons, which was everything I'd done everything I'd done to a certain point for Aftershock. And then they did put out like a Dark Arc collection. That's which all the Dark Arc stuff.
They did. And I think that's what I picked up, because they had released both of those around the same time.
Yeah.
And that was really cool, but completely unexpected, because you never know where Aftershock was going to print what kind of format and what kind of books, honestly.
Yeah, some of those hardcovers there, and that, like, when that Dark Art collection came out, I was like, I did not expect it. I didn't know that was coming out. That was news to me when I saw it. When I got a box, I was like, what's in here? Oh, a bunch of books I never knew were coming out.
Hmm.
So,
I personally, I still want a hardcover of Bone Parish. I love that series.
Yeah, that was a great series.
Yeah.
How long before a book hits print does Cullen have the script done? What's the lead time on writing to release? It's a good question.
It's a great question. It varies. So I can tell you that most of the time when I'm working on Marvel books, it is cut tight. It is. I might be hired to write a book, and they'll say, "Oh, and the first issue is going to press in 3 months, so we need the script in 3 weeks, so the artist can get it done." So I mean, it is a very tight time frame. On the other side of the spectrum, I just got art today from an artist who's working on a book with me that's in that Beyond Mortal universe I was telling you about.
Mm-hmm.
And that book doesn't come out until this time next year. So we're already,
Wow.
I'm done, I'm done with the series, my part, and art is being done, for a book that'll come out next year. So it all depends on the publisher, what their slate is. 9 times out of 10, if it's a creator-owned book, I'm a few months to even a year out. But with like a Marvel book, it was almost always super tight. Like I'm done and the book's out in a couple of weeks.
I guess that's a big difference in the well-oiled machine that is the monthly floppies, huh? At the big two.
I always prefer a lot more time. I think the artist deserves a little more time. I think I think just the book deserves to have a little bit of breathing room. But I'll work. I've worked on different kinds of time frames. As long as I know what it is, and when I say yes, I can't really complain about it too much.
For Nightwalkers, which we kind of controlled the timeline of that, it was from script to finish issue 1 in about 2.5 months.
Yeah,
wow,
and that's pretty tight. I mean, that's
yeah.
But we knew what the artist was capable of, and so we it didn't surprise anybody, and we knew we had a goal in mind with it. So different time frames. I wish I could just say it's always 4 months, but it's not. It's
just different times then.
Yeah. So
I read the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Godzilla when it came out in trade paperback. That was such a fun read. Loved every bit of it.
Thank you so much. That book is just intended to be fun, and this next one is the first one was fun. This next one is just stupid fun. I saw that water under the bridge comment. Come on, I see what you did there. Smart Alec.
Aquaman versus the Deep Ones. Omar, where's his Agent Venom omnibus? Why are you yelling at me, William? I got no say. I suggested it.
I agree. I 1000% agree. I just got in the mail today a trade. I guess it's one of those epic collections.
Yeah, they're doing modern epic collections in your stuff.
So I guess I just got the trade that is the beginning of my Venom stuff, the few issues I wrote with Rick, and then up until a point, but it's not all of it. It's just it's the beginning of the Venom run.
Yeah.
So I would like a nice big Venom hardcover.
Well, we've got volumes 1 through 3, and then we don't have the Matt Gargan era of Venom or the Lee era, and then the Agent Venom omnibus era, and then we do have the Donny Cates Venom. So I think that will come one day. I think I mean, it's a no-brainer, and it's probably because a lot of people want that era, and it would be probably over 2 omnis to fit everything.
Yeah,
that character in omnibus format. It would definitely be 2 omnis worth. So that's where it is, William. I'm sorry. I'll try better. Actually, while you were talking, you already wrote another original graphic novel. He's on his phone writing a script right now.
It's not unheard of for me to work while on an interview, but you guys deserve my full attention.
we can see the reflection from your glasses, Cullen, that you are in fact writing a script. 2 scripts. Can you ask him about Metro that he made with Q?
So Metro was the first Kickstarter I ever did. I did that with It was a graphic novel I did with Brian Quinn from the Impractical Jokers.
Wow.
Super, and it was it's just super dark, sort of a super dark comedy, dark fantasy. You can still get them. I don't know if you can get them at comic shops still or not, but you can definitely get them at like my website and stuff if you're ever looking for them. Yeah, it was a fun project. It is probably not what I would choose to be my first Kickstarter if I could go back and redo it, because we just got so many of Brian's fans who weren't necessarily comic fans, which is fine, but it was just it was a little overwhelming for the first Kickstarter I did.
How did that even come about?
So Brian and I have become friends over the years. He messaged me on Twitter complaining about Lobo.
I didn't know he was a comic reader. I'm a big fan of Impractical Jokers too.
He's a huge comic book fan. Huge comic fan. And he messaged me on Twitter complaining about Lobo when I wrote that briefly, because I wrote the much maligned Sparkly Lobo version of the character, and he was ribbing me. He wasn't like coming at me like you should die for what you've done. But he was ribbing me about it, and we just started talking back and forth, and we became friends, from that point. And I used to, I'd hang out with him when he was traveling nearby, or I'd go see his shows. We'd hang out, and at some point, we just threw the idea maybe we should do a comic together. And he had this world he wanted to tell a story in, and that was the world of Metro, and it was drawn by Walt Flanagan from Comic Book Men. So we had this.
Man, you brought all the worlds together, dude.
Yeah, we brought all the worlds together.
I love that. That's awesome.
Brian also collaborated with us on our prose anthology, Centralia. He has a short story that he wrote in that. Which is really cool. It's like our version of The Stand. Hopefully it'll play out that way, but we did a live stream for that. That was great. He's hilarious, obviously, and it was great. Everybody involved with that is phenomenal. I mean, it was Cullen, myself, Brian Keene, who's a great writer, Adam Caesar, who he did Clown in the Cornfield. I think he's on volume 3 now. That thing's on like gangbusters. Michael Patrick Hicks and Q had I don't know if it's his first prose story, isn't it?
It was his first prose story.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
dude, that's awesome. It's awesome that people reached out to you, whether they were yelling, and then that opened up a door to something else. That's great.
Yeah,
I had to yell because I know Marvel's listening.
Okay. Yeah, they are.
Please make it Venomnibus, not an omnibus. Bring back the Venomnibus. Comic Book Man, that's a blast from the past show.
It is, and you know what? I just yesterday somehow stumbled on TikTok. A bunch of Comic Book Men clips came popping through my TikTok, so I was like, oh, I remember this.
Oh man, it's been a long time since I saw that show. I'm a big Kevin Smith fan, so hey, who knows? Maybe you guys could work together too. He's got ideas. He just actually started writing a bunch of stuff over at Dark Horse again.
Yeah, he's got. I don't know. I don't know if he has his own imprint there now or what. But yeah, I know he's doing some stuff there.
Yeah, he moved his imprint over there.
Yeah,
that's right. You never know where this crazy life can take you. I love hearing these stories. Heath has opened up my eyes to a whole new world of random. It's got to be awesome though, because I mean, that feeling of getting a reply back, and even if nothing comes from it, somebody took the time to actually get back to you. I think that's really cool.
I mean, I've gotten DMs from John Cusack back after reaching out to him, and I don't know if you know the guy Eddie Burns he was in Saving Private Ryan. He played in Brooklyn. I'm a big fan of his independent stuff. I asked him, if we could do a comic based on him at the time, and he was down for it. So I even have art from that. A bunch of people agreed to do that. Him and Manuel, actually, we're still friends. We're still trying to make the film that I sent as a script for 15 years later, she helped me design my ex's engagement ring. Like it all comes down to just not being a jackass when you do talk to these people. And it honestly, it started at a con in Connecticut. I went up to Tim Seeley one day after the con, and I was like, hey, are you having dinner? My friend and I would love to, chill and have dinner with you. And he's like, yeah, I'm down, which, okay.
And that's the last time anyone ever saw Tim Seeley.
And then Greg Pak walked over to Tim and he asked him what he's doing. He's like, oh, I'm going to dinner with these guys. And Greg asks, oh, can I join? And we're like, of freaking course, you just wrote Planet Hulk. We're going to,
A witness. Greg Pak saved Tim Seeley's life that day and didn't even know it.
But, it's stuff like that. And, being somebody that people want to work with. It really comes down to just not being a jerk and bringing value, really. And, if you approach these people as human beings, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna react in the way you expect. Like I had breakfast with Ben McKenzie, who played Commissioner Gordon on Gotham, just because I emailed him and was like, hey, want to talk about some ideas? And the next weekend I was having breakfast with him in the city, and he was telling me things about Gotham that like we'd been friends for a decade. Like I can't repeat them here, but there were things like Batman was never supposed to be in the show when he signed.
You just did repeat them here.
No.
You can't say I can't say that.
That was nothing, believe me. But, he was a great dude. And I've been blessed that none of these people have been jerks either. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Colin and I first started out, one of the first writers to put some trust in us was Joe Lansdale. He was like, here's some of my books. Take them out, see if you can do anything with them. You know what I mean? And that blew me away because I have the utmost respect for Joe. I mean, he's a legend. You know what I mean? So be able to work with people like that, I'm constantly myself, but this can't be real.
Colin, before we go, I do have a hold on a second. Give us an example of what you can.
Yeah, that's my favorite one. I saw that pop through and I tried not to laugh when it popped.
Kindness opens the door to many possibilities. I've heard that too. Fearless Defenders and X-Men Blue are very underrated and deserve the oversized treatment. Trigonosis knows what's up.
I agree with Trigonosis.
So have you had bad experiences, Colin? When you were talking about like working with people and you don't have the time to work with people that are jerks. You don't have to say any names, but have you had bad experiences? Because it seems like Heath hasn't had a damn bad experience anytime he reached out to people. Or maybe he's just keeping those stories to himself.
Oh yeah, I mean I have, but
okay.
Look, I've had experiences. Look, I mean, listen, and I will not name names. Nobody deserves me naming a name of somebody unless they've done something just really awful. I'm not going to tell. I'm not in the position to name names. They don't need that because they treated me poorly. That's fine. But yeah, I've had a few shocking experiences. I remember right when I first started working for Marvel,
mm-hmm.
I went to one of the Marvel's parties in San Diego, and there was a writer there that I really wanted. That I was like, oh, this writer's awesome. I love their work. They do great things. I really want to meet him and say hello to him. And I walked up and I thought I was pretty polite about it, and I was just like, hey, so and so, I just want to make sure. I didn't call him so and so. That would have been a surefire. But I'm talking to them, telling them how much I like their work, telling them, I just got started with Marvel, so it's exciting to work with you. And they looked at me and they said, I'm going to go over there and talk to someone else. And just turned and walked away from me. That was the only words they said to me. And I've had conversations with this person since then. And they've always been kind of a jackass to me. Yeah, it's I don't think I'm much more nervous about introducing myself than Heath is, because I don't know that I've had the good experience that Heath has had every time.
I've had experiences with creators too, because you never, this is what I was talking about earlier, you never know when you're going to catch somebody on a bad day. I don't know if somebody had to put their cat down. You never know where interviews are going to go, right? Or you know, or if they're sick or whatever it is.
I try to keep that in mind in every interaction.
Yeah,
everywhere, because you just don't know.
Absolutely.
You don't know what's going on with a person. So I try to keep that in mind. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. So I feel like every time we talk, though, man, like it feels like you're a genuinely good dude. I don't know if you go around kicking puppies after the interview's over and then you go write your story.
I got a puppy chained right here, and I just kick it.
I think Heath would know more than I do.
As long as it's cute puppy.
Man, but I've had my share when I was a kid of just, and even as a grown ass man, of just having a bad interaction with creators. So when you said rock stars, I was like, shit. Off the top of my head, I can think of a lot of comic creators that think they are that level of rock stars. And of course, we've helped put them there, right? Like as a kid that grew up in the 90s and 80s reading comics, we've helped put them there.
9.5 times out of 10, my interactions with comic creators have been delightful.
Yeah.
Including some that, like, people are like, oh, you don't want to meet that person. They are a real jerk. They're a big curmudgeon, and they're the nicest person you could ever imagine. So 9.5 times out of 10, delightful. But what people should realize, especially creators, when you are a jackass to somebody, if they're like me, that one jackass completely paints a different picture for all the other good interactions. And it's not my job to make someone's day worse. I don't want to go out of my way to make someone feel worse during the day. And that's not just in comics, that's just in everything. I don't want anyone to feel worse. Nobody deserves that. Yeah. So, and it's so easy not to make someone feel worse.
Absolutely. I mean, I've only had
Shut up, Heath.
I've only had one. I've only
been building up.
And besides Cullen, and it was basically just a creator who does not have the recognition to even remotely act this way, acted like me reaching out was like far beneath them. And I was like, okay, sorry to have bothered you. And that's only happened once. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Considering how many people I reach out to on almost a daily basis, that, you know, I'll take those odds any day.
Yeah, man. It seems like you got a good streak. I don't know if you gamble or not, but maybe you should try doing a little bit of that.
I've tried. It all ends up. It apparently it only works for contacting people, because, you know, we missed $6,000 last night by one player not getting a certain amount of yardage. So believe it only applies to the reaching out to people.
Look, Mr. Bunn seems to be like a very understanding guy, Mr. Nice Guy.
Much like Jackie Chan. And if you mess with me,
that movie's awesome. Yes, that movie's awesome. Yes, that's how Cullen met me.
Yeah, that was you. I meant to tell you.
I somehow was in this after party at San Diego at Marvel. In the name of Cullen and Heath, don't forget to smash that like button. Thank you so much. Oh, this is a good question to end the interview with. What's more important to either one of you, character or plot? What comes first?
I can't tell you which one comes first, because it changes. Sometimes you get a great idea that's plot driven. Sometimes you come up with a great character you want to put into some situation. I feel like plot is vitally important, but if you don't have a great character to get you through that plot, no one cares. You know, I feel like you have to have, the plot's like this great framework, but the character has to be compelling and interesting and real for people to even want to follow you through. Heath may have a very different opinion on this.
I mean, I just love character because I love dialogue. I can tell an entire story through dialogue and not have any issues with, you know, not filling pages with description and all of that. Like, that's where I'm coming from. I think a great character can drive any story. And as long as the dialogue is really singing, you're never going to lose the reader. If it's constant, like machine gun fire, I love that. And I've really only tried to write from plot once, and from my regular readers that I hand my stuff to, they all said it was the weakest thing I'd written. So it tends to be when I build something more around a character, my stuff tends to be better.
Yeah.
This is my buddy Taylor, so we got to ask this question. Question for Cullen and Heath. What was the last great comic you guys read? Not together.
I don't read those comic books. That's kid stuff. Heath, what's the last great one you read? I know mine, but
like literally read. I just read I just did a reread.
No, I want one that you dreamed you read.
Recently. Like literally recently. Just did a reread of Deadly Class.
Oh yeah.
It's I made sure to get all the hardcovers because they're all gorgeous. And before that it was Low, and that's really just the art.
Low's, I think Low's a great book, man.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of that one too. I like Rick Remender a lot too.
I do too. He's one of my favorite. I think Rick is one of the biggest imaginers in comics. I think he has just such a great imagination. I mean, he's definitely my top.
Oh yeah.
Comic writers.
Actually, and I don't know if you guys hang or if you met him or not, but you guys kind of remind me a lot of each other. He has a lot of your personality. He's kind of a jokester.
You take it back. Yeah, I know Rick. I haven't seen Rick in several years now, but I used to, we'd see each other at conventions, hang out at shows and stuff like that. And then the best comic I've read, last great comic I read, I was sorting through my bookcases of all my stuff out here, and I just was paging through some of those, and whoo, so good. Every one of them. Top tier.
You read your own stuff?
Yeah, I was reading my own stuff, and I was like, this is some really great material.
I guess the Bunn seal of approval, huh?
Right there, Sam. No, I just read, and I don't think it's come out yet, but I just read Dennis Hopeless, My Mortal Enemy. Is putting out a book called She's Running on Fumes, and I think it's a Comixology original. It is. I know it's a Comixology original. It is so good. I mean, it is hands down one of the best sort of crime comics I've read in a decade. It is amazing, and it gives me great pain to say anything good about Dennis Hopeless, but it is such a good book. So find out when it's coming out and get on it, because I don't think it's out yet, but it's really great.
Comixology, yeah. Usually, some of them tend to have a deal with Dark Horse, and I think sometimes IDW, depending on physical format to print out a physical format. Oh, all right. Last, this is a good one though. Who's the most underrated writer or artist currently in comic books right now?
Do I want to say Cullen?
Underrated.
I do. I don't know if his screen will hold him. I mean, I don't know. I don't really have the time to read newer people. You know what I mean? So I tend to gravitate towards the people that I know I like. Mm-hmm. And most of them are not underrated. You know what I mean? Everybody knows Jeff Lemire. You know what I mean? Everybody knows Remender. Everybody knows Brubaker. Like, I'm not selling anybody that no one in this chat already doesn't own all their stuff from. So I really haven't had much of a chance to read newer people. So I really can't speak to that, unfortunately.
Okay.
I'll tell you hands down, artist Brian Hurt is the best serialized artist, graphic storyteller working in the business today. And I'm not just saying that because he's a good friend of mine or that I've worked with him for a long time. I think Brian Hurt is the chef's kiss in terms of a graphic storyteller who puts heart and soul onto the page. And I think more people should pay attention to him. It just so happens that a lot of his work is on my comics. So if you're going to pay attention to him, you can pick up those books. Lucky you.
Well done.
Yeah, right. But I also look, he doesn't only work with me. He's doing some other stuff with some other creators. He's got his own studio, and they put out some really gorgeous hardcover edition books you can probably track down that he's done with Matt.
I caught that tone there, Cullen.
Yeah, did you hear that? Yeah, look, Listen, you hardcover. I was trying to think of a good name I can call people who are addicted to hardcovers, like Marvel Zombies.
Yeah, I'm sure there are,
hardcover harpies, because you're just always coming after me for hardcovers. You know, I'm joking. I love you. I love you all. Don't think I'm serious. But yeah, I do think Brian Hurt is very underrated for as long as he's been working in this industry and is as great as he is.
I can support that, absolutely. And then Joe, who did Cullen's Nightwalkers, I think he's gonna be huge at some point. His art is just phenomenal. It's Cullen's version of Vampires, if you haven't read it, and it's very dark and the action leaps off the page because of Joe's artwork. And then who else was there? Danny, that you work with, Cullen, he's great.
Oh, Danny Lucker is really something special. That's a good. He's. I don't call him underrated because I just don't think he's on the radar at all. And I think Danny Lucker deserves a lot more attention. He's really good.
Danny Lucker.
Yeah, he did the book I mentioned, Beyond Mortal. He's the artist of Beyond Mortal. He's helping me develop that superhero universe. But he's done other stuff too. He's done other books with other creators. He's just a really sharp guy and a great artist.
I was also lucky enough to work with Justin Mason. Our book that we worked on together would have actually been his first published work, but it came out after Spider-Punk, which he did the series for. And, he's very unique, and there's definitely a certain style to him. But I love his stuff. I have a bunch of commissions from him. His art is always very kinetic. It's always moving. It's always action-packed. So I think he's going to be pretty big as well.
Well, those are some great recommendations. And I just want to thank both of you again for joining me. This is always a blast. And I'm sure next year when I have Cullen back, he'll have written 85 more books that I've only read like half of.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Just, I don't know how he has time to do anything else. And hope maybe he had opened up one of those board games, another one of those board games to play sometime. Now
that's a bridge too far.
Yeah.
Actually doing something fun, relaxing, forget it. I'm out.
I'm going to put the link again in the chat in case you're just now joining. It's also in the description of the video. This is where you can go and help get this book. Well, I think it's already coming, but if you want to lock yourself in a copy of this book or tell your retailer that they can order you a book, this is the place to go. And again, thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. Thank you, chat, for the great questions. Everyone stay healthy and safe.
Thanks, everyone. It was great talking with you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And